It's effectively a Zapier replacement. You can talk to it and you can build your own agents, and you don't need any code anymore, and it'll automate anything for you. And it's also unlimited. So
Wait,
sick.
Christian, you did not smart prospect for the past 2 months? Oh, damn. Sucks to be you, man.
Classic
Cool.
Enzo.
Lols. And if it helps you guys with a zinger for just some of you while everyone else is coming in, the dialer is also going to be unlimited. So we will get
Nice.
out pricing on that
We are
as
live
well.
on YT. Like,
All right, let's go for it. We're seeing a drop in numbers, so I think they'll just be thinking it's not running. So let's hit it. Devesh, are you letting them in?
I'm going to record first, then I'm going to let them in. Okay.
Cool. We don't hit. Wait.
Yeah.
All right. What is up, everyone from literally all over the world? You've got some very exciting square and rectangular heads over here, aptly positioned for all of you to meet. We're going to run into this very soon. We're just letting everyone come in. We got a beautiful attendance of over 1,000 people over here, so it's going to be an exciting event. And don't be nervous. We are not going to ask you for any money yet. That's a joke. I will be doing a lot of these ones. I apologize. It will be dad jokes, even though I'm not one, but some of them are over here, and congrats to them. They know who they are. So now, before we jump into this, let's get the chat absolutely buzzing. Go ahead and welcome yourself. Drop out exactly where in the world you are from and what your favorite dish is. And it can be anything that is Chick-fil-A. I'm kidding. Sacramento. All right. Bolognese. Love that. Sweet shakshuka. Nice. All right. Let's keep it going. We got the buzz going. Lovely. Look, before we kick off, everyone, I want to let everyone over here know, all 500 of you and everyone else joining, stick around. We've got a ton of freebies to give out. And this, just to call it out from the very beginning, it's not just the, a lucky 20. Over 100 of you will be given free items. And when I say free items, it's actually not some random playbook or some PDF. It's going to be something along subscriptions, access to Smartlead, free products, something to do with the dialer, something to do with agents, something to do with private infrastructure, but you'll be getting things that are actually of value. It is not going to be random giveaways and PDFs. You will get a free server Moid if you are lucky enough. And like I said, it's over 100 of you, so it's a good chance you'll get it. All you have to do is stick around, because at the very end, we will be putting out a little paper form for you to fill in. And then from there, we'll see what type of applications that you want. Sorry. Yeah, that is what we'll be doing, of course. Cool. Alrighty. Welcome on, everyone. We are going to kick off, and we are going to start with everyone's beautiful introduction. And what we're going to do over here, have a very, very, very interactive experience. We are going to be running a bunch of poll questions. You will all learn a lot about each other, and you'll learn about some of the best in the industry over here. I kept cracking this joke internally. No one got it when I said it is the biggest Outbound event of the year. It's just been 2 weeks. So we plan on hosting significantly bigger events as well. But collectively, what you're looking at, the 8 squares, I don't even joke when I mean it. They're probably responsible for north of 9 figures in deal flow for their clients combined every single quarter on quarter. They are pretty much the individuals who've written the playbooks that you all use, read, watch, and see on YouTube, online, blogs, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. Some of them are very hard to find. I've had to beg, plead, and do very, very unfortunate things to get their attention in my life. None of it I'm still very proud of. It's brought me closer to them. Haha, gay joke. Now, let's go into the kickoff. Well, let's start off with a quick introduction from everyone. We'll start from the top left from my screens, and then we'd love to get everyone's introductions in a circular manner. Obviously, I'll kick off. We'll start off with he's about 6 feet tall in real life, and we'll start off with Matt Lucero. We'd love a quick introduction about yourself, sir, and who you are, what you do, and why people should listen to you.
Appreciate it. I'm 6'3", actually, just to set the record
Sorry.
straight. But what's up? What's up, guys? My name's Matt. I run a cold email agency like pretty much everyone else on here. 24 years old. Send a bunch of emails. Super excited to be chatting here today. Have a YouTube channel. And yeah, excited to chat.
All right, let's go for it. We got next one. Let's see if you can be even more prompter. We got Eric.
My name is Eric Nowoslawski. More prompt than that. We've been doing this for like 4 years. I am customer number 11 on Smartlead. It'd be faster if I was in the same time zone as Vaibhav. And I used to work at Clay, and we're also the largest Clay user because we have been integrated with it for so long.
Love the flex. All right, we'll go for Alex.
I'm Alex Fine. I'm the co-founder of Understory, and I'm here with all my friends today. So this is amazing. We are an all-bound agency, so we don't only do cold outbound, but we blend everything that we do from cold outbound with ads as well. It's what differentiates us from a lot of these guys. But yeah, I've been running alongside these guys for like two to 3 years now. I love all of them, and I wish I could give you guys a hug. I'm not 6'3". I'm 5'9" on a good day. So
Awesome. Let's go for Mr. Enzo Carasso.
Hey guys, I'm Enzo Carasso. I'm the founder of C17 Lab. All those guys in this call today are a really close friend of mine and probably the best in the world at what they do. So you guys are in good hand today. C17, we're really a revenue engineering firm focusing on generating leads all the way up to making sure the leads and prospects show up on the sales calls for you. So we own the entire piece from generating the lead, calling the leads, making sure they show up. And I'm mostly well known for generating the most money for Alex Hormozi for his book, 100 million money models and $100 million leads. That's it.
Nice. You're the French guy. I see. All right, we've got Nick Abraham.
What's going on, guys? My name's Nick Abraham. I run Leadbird and Cleverly. We're a cold email agency and a LinkedIn lead gen agency. We have about 1,000 active clients, send about 2 million cold emails and about 1 million LinkedIn DMs. And yeah, that's us.
Nice. All right, we've got Christian.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Christian. I'm also 5'9". It's cool to be the national average, but I'm the CEO of RevGen Labs. We are a very bespoke lead gen agency. We do a lot of cold calling. We do a lot of emailing. We do a lot of LinkedIn. Not as much paid ads as Alex, but we do it all too. The other thing that I'd say is I'm the founder of Tuesday Triggers, which many of us started because we all kind of joined communities. So if there's one piece of advice this year is kind of jump in, right?
Nice. All right, we got Wesley next.
Everyone, I'm Wesley. I'm actually 7'1" on a good day. Harris, what are you laughing? I run Cymate and we do cold email. I also have a background in software engineering, so we do a lot of operations and also sort of like positioning for a customer as well. So pleasure to be here. These guys are legends, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun session.
Lovely. We got Harris.
My name is Harris Kenny. I'm the founder of OutboundSync, one of the first Smartlead agency partners, but realized I didn't want to compete against these types of folks, so became more of an app developer. And so we build a tool that integrates with Smartlead, and we get to work with a lot of the folks here. And excited to talk about especially omnichannel for 2026.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you all. Let's go for it. Everyone who's joined, the agenda is very, very exciting. We're going to be talking about a bunch of cool things straight from these individuals and how we can leverage a lot of their insights and advice as well. Now, before we do that, for some of you who do know and do not know, we run a product called Smartlead. We are a lead gen platform. We do everything from emails, we do data, we do now dialing as well, we do automations too, and we've got a very cool unlimited package that just rolled out for all of you to check out if you want. Of course, we've got voice as well, and we've got private infrastructure because, you know, supposedly that matters nowadays. So we're going to start off with that at the very beginning with everyone over here. We've got a poll coming up right now. Your screen is going to show up with a poll. You're going to see it. It's very intrusive. And I'm going to ask the same question to all the 9 squares over here, or 8 squares, right? 8 squares, that's what I'm going to call you guys. What is your main frustration with lead data today? High bounce rates, juggling different tools, leads not targeted for the ICPs, having to pay for data, or let's guess, all of the above. Now, with that, I want to pick out Eric and Alex specifically. Let's start with Eric. Any of those things matter to you? You've beaten the market. How do you handle any of these issues? High bounce rates, using different tools, managing leads that have targeted ICPs that don't exist, or just paying for data altogether?
Yeah, so I don't really know, because so the high bounce rates and the low reply rates. I mean, the low reply rate comes down to your offer, right? And that's just you just got to do better on that. The high bounce rates we've really solved by, I mean, basically double or triple verifying a lot of our leads. So we don't really have that issue. And then needing to juggle multiple tools for enrichment and validation, we've really been streamlining that and doing a lot in-house while also just paying more money for some of the better tools right now as well too, to just make that a lot easier as well too. I think the one thing that we're trying to focus on a lot right now is the leads are not well targeted for my ICP. Just real quick, it's like if you just take the industry filters out of a box that the industry and the job title filters out of a box that they give you, that is not going to be as well targeted as you really can be. And I actually just posted a YouTube video about how we're thinking about this in the future. So not to take up too much time, but what we want to start doing is start pulling like any company that reasonably could be in somebody's TAM, and then using cached inputs and the batch API with OpenAI to actually be able to process as many of those companies as we possibly can, super cheap. So then we can actually get like a verification that they're a good fit for our customer, and then get the contacts and the targeting there. I could talk more about that, but I would say that's the biggest problem, and that's the way that we're solving for it right now.
Lovely. Alex, how about yourself?
Honestly, I think with high bounce rates and low reply rates, it's just if you're not triple validating your data, like Eric said, you're going to run into that. I think that's a tale as old as time. And all of us have been going back and forth in Christian's group, Tuesday Triggers, about how we're solving for that for years at this point. I think every single person on this call probably has a similar process and how they're waterfalling data to make sure they're not running into that issue. So I would say that's become a thing of the past, but it does require multiple different validation points, and it does require multiple different tools. Or you could be like Eric and you could build crazy stuff in Cursor. I would also say that, yeah, leads not being well targeted for your ICP, that's a research problem. That's like a pre-work problem. And if you're not doing that the right way, you're going to run into that issue. But if you're doing everything right before you actually upload those leads to campaigns, it's probably not an issue you're going to run into. I think another thing that you can do there too is create all kinds of different custom triggers and signals. We do triggers and signals from all kinds of different sources to go for that. But I mean, if you're going after the right triggers and signals for the right people, you're not going to run into that issue, and you're going to be reaching out to the right people. You're going to get high reply rates. Like Eric said, if your offer is great and your CTA is great and you do something low friction, you're going to have high reply rates. And if you don't, that's probably the first place you should look. So similar to Eric, and I think a lot of us are probably going to have similar answers here because we all do the exact same thing every day. But yeah, I think you should use Smartlead, and you should get your leads from Smartlead.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, we got the poll answers. Looks like we've got 33% also having high bounce rates, and I guess 29% having all of the above. That's a big one. And Alex, thank you for that nice little smooth shout out there. Sweet. Now, with that being said, we're gonna go into the first roundtable. We're gonna pick up Wesley and Alex, and the rest of you look pretty and smart. Now, I want to start off with two questions pointed to Wesley first. One question to Wesley, and then one question straight to Alex. You said you worked with a lot, I mean, you run Cymate, you work with lots of agencies, I mean, you work with a lot of companies and users and so on and so forth. But whilst trying to go into that, I want to pick out your brain to understand when you see people have outbound work for them and their business and their leadership wants to scale it, where do you tend to usually see cost spike? Or when do you see in your own business cost spike?
Yeah. That's a really good question. And I think one thing that a lot of founders make the mistake on is they jump into scaling really quickly, right? Like they ask me like, hey, can we just do like loads and loads of volumes? We have never done this before. We've never run any ads. Can we just, like test quicker? You could do that, obviously, but I think at the same time, we always proceed with cautious. And I think the way that we build a roadmap for customers like this, if the first campaign we run, we always go after multiple industry, multiple copies, multiple offers, all that kind of stuff, right? If you get, let's say, maybe a couple leads coming in from one particular campaigns, if you get a couple meetings, a couple close from that, then I think that's a good sign to really double down on that campaign just to see if you can get it consistently performing, right? So that's the one thing we're trying to look for, consistency. Now, once you get that consistency going on, then I think that's a good indication that, hey, I think it's the right time to maybe double the infrastructure to maybe do more, and just as long as the time allow, right? And I think one other thing that I always tell the customer as a precautious is, like, hey, look, when you double the infrastructures and when you double the volume, that doesn't necessarily means that you always gonna get double the return, right? And we all know that, right? Just because the business is doing well, we get, like extra funded doesn't mean that when you dump all this money into the company, it's gonna grow 2x, right? So same idea. Now, if you double the infrastructures, let's say everything was doing well, and you get perhaps like 1.5 to like 1.8x out of it, I think that's a huge win. You know, I think that's the right indication. Like, hey, let's do more after that.
Fair enough. Great answer. Thank you. Wesley, question for you. In a world where we're getting, no, Wesley, sorry, Alex, question for you. In a world where we're getting a lot of consolidated products, right? We see AI becoming cheaper, data becoming cheaper, mailboxes becoming cheaper. For anyone getting into outbound or just people in general trying to optimize their stack, and as someone who runs an all-bound agency, according to you, what's the one thing that people should probably not be trying to spend a lot of capital investment in their 2026 outbound stack? Maybe use that to focus on other elements of growth.
This is gonna be a really hot take, and it's not even a tool, it's people. I think hiring too many SDRs early on is a recipe for disaster. I think SDRs are critical, but I think SDRs should more be turned into what AEs used to be. They should be handling a lot more inbound that's coming in from the work that agencies like us, or if you're doing this internally, you're generating. So you can generate thousands of replies, a week if you have enough infrastructure, or it doesn't matter what the time period is, but you can generate so many replies, so you're keeping your reps busy. You do need that human in the loop. I mean, obviously, Vaibhav, I know you're doing a lot with agents for replies, and a lot of people are using stuff like that. But I think having a human in the loop, and Enzo does this really well with calling too, but calling those people who are replying, you don't need that many of them. If you have 1 to 2 really high quality SDRs on your team, don't hire 10 of them because you think they're going to 10x your output. You really just need those people who can field the leads that you're generating. And that goes for paid ads too, by the way. That's not only for outbound. You need people who are following up with these people immediately with high quality responses, something relevant, actually catering to their needs versus just a million SDRs that are just spinning their wheels and wasting time, and you're just paying them a salary and then a commission for things that they're not really doing. So I think that's a place where people start to spend a lot of money that they don't need to. And I think every founder, especially founders that are really technical with a software engineering background or something like that, they might not know that there's another way to do this. And they think that you're still doing the playbook from 2014 where you're hiring all these SDRs, putting them on the floor and just having them call, send a million personalized emails, performing hand-to-hand combat. Quick way to run up your payroll really fast.
Fair play. That makes sense. I was gonna take a zinger from someone over here. I just maybe want to extend that question a little further. If we don't hire SDRs early, we will train team members. What's the mechanism to scale? How do you actually start building up, and the classic don't work in your business, work on your business? How does that, and where does that come? Alex, that's for you.
Ask it a little bit differently.
Okay.
Good question.
Maybe another way I would go ahead and optimize for that question or restructure is, you said not to hire preemptively or be very calculated when you hire, but when exactly is that line limit at which point we realize, okay, we do need to bring someone on and we're struggling in operations and we can't actually grow further because we're stuck operationally?
Yeah, I mean, if you have such a high lead volume that you don't have enough people to field the leads and you're just wasting them, I think all of us here know, a lot of us come from sales too. Everyone here knows speed to lead is critical. And if you're not getting back to these people fast, if you take even 24 hours, sometimes they forget you exist. They'll never respond to your email again. They got busy with something else. So if you get to a point where you can't get back in touch with people who are raising their hand and showing interest in your product quick enough, that's when you do need to scale. That's definitely a place where the money and the investment become very well worth it.
Fair play. Makes sense. Got it. Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Wesley. Appreciate that. Now, everyone, we're going to be entering, like I said, we're going to try to keep this as interactive as possible. But at the same time, I do note some of you dropping questions. Feel free to keep dropping your questions on the chat. We will use some time to get them answered by some of the best in the industry. So while we do that, while we get into poll number 2, make sure you have your questions ready.
Even before that,
yes.
One other caveat there. I think every single one of us here is bootstrapped. Every single one of these agencies, you've bootstrapped as well. That makes a huge difference in those decisions too. If you have a ton of money in the bank and you can afford to scale quicker, maybe that could work for you. I still wouldn't recommend it. I think every business should think like a bootstrapped business. But as a bootstrapped business, you should absolutely be paying attention to those costs before you just dump a bunch of money into the business that's not actually going to benefit you and be ROI positive.
Perfectly called that, sir. Perfectly called that. Thank you. For a lot of you, you would have actually seen a poll open up in your screen. Now, if you got the poll open up, we're actually talking about how many of you actually use outbound automations with your agencies or your workflows. I'd really hope some of you are using automations, but I want to actually pick out two very special individuals. The rest of you are just as special as well. Nick and Harris, conveniently so, the individuals who are known for their automations and outbound. I'd love to understand from your perspective exactly, maybe one little tidbit of what, Nick, you do to automate, and what do you think you automate that's unique to you that maybe most people should do and don't do right now?
Yeah, so I'll speak kind of more for like lead gen agencies and just agency owners in general. I think having like, and this sounds basic, but I find a lot of agencies don't do it, is having just like an onboarding form that's super detailed and kind of gets all the inputs you need to be able to execute on your fulfillment, and having that pass over into like, some kind of master database where you store all your clients and have all your automations to kick off of. We have everything pushed into an Airtable, and then we have a whole bunch of prompts that'll help, create campaigns for our CSMs to then be able to present to the client on the onboarding call. And so it kind of just like makes their work a lot easier. It also does a lot of the research before the actual onboarding call. So they come to the call prepared and are able to really, kind of make the client feel like we are doing that super high level one-on-one research and touch prior to the call. Which sets really good expectations. So I think that's some key stuff that everybody can implement today. Outside of that, I don't know if like I'm super bought in on the idea of like agents in the sense of like how everyone says it, but I'm super bought in on just like outbound workflows. I think there's tons of things that people could be implementing in their business to get campaigns to absolutely pump. So like my favorite campaigns to run in the background for clients that aren't really like high volume campaigns. They're not the campaigns that are going to generate you hundreds of leads a month, but they just work on signals. So like, being able to monitor people's posts and scrape them on a weekly basis and throw them into your smart lead campaign. I think that's a great idea. Same thing with like monitoring like job posts and scraping the hiring manager and tossing them into your campaigns on a weekly basis. I think that's a great idea. Implementing things like RB2B, for example, and pushing people into a smart lead campaign on a recurring basis. Like those are the type of things that are super easy to set up and are actually high impact. And then outside of that, I think that's probably like some of the simpler things on the outbound workflows, but are super easy to get placed in. So I'll kind of kick it
Nice.
off to Harris.
Nice. Thank you for that. Harris, floor is yours.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to what Nick said, but I'll make a parallel point because I'm not going to try to top Nick. So something that we're seeing is, this concept of race conditions. So as agents are starting to pick up responsibility, agencies are building their own automation, internal teams are building their own automation alongside what agencies are shipping. You run into these timing problems. So this is kind of more of like an advanced problem, but we're starting to see this more and more. And so the thing I would encourage people to think about, what we're seeing is like, basically you need to have the right information at the right place at the right time. So if, because you have rate limits across different systems and you have like queues across different systems, what I would encourage people to really start to think about is how do we build systems that have error handling in them, retry logic in them, waiting logic in there so that what the right information is in the right place. Because I think we're seeing like different parts of outbound systems are starting to all of a sudden move substantially faster. So like people are using Smartlead MCP servers hooked up with Cursor and shipping stuff really, really quickly, but other parts of the system like aren't necessarily keeping pace. And then when you start plugging agents into that, and agents are potentially looking for inputs that aren't available yet because they're waiting on another system to arrive. So the biggest thing that I think that we're thinking about right now is, and we're shipping some features around this, around delay function and things like that, is how do you get these systems to work together? Because, well, some people here, and if you're on this webinar, you're kind of a weirdo, no offense, like you're spending time learning about this stuff, you're way ahead of the market. So you're probably shipping some parts of your go-to-market engine, and those are moving way, way, way faster than the rest of your tech stack, or than even your team is able to move. So that's something that we're thinking about a ton right now. It started to really surface over the last 3 months of last year, and it's becoming, I think, a bigger and a bigger and a bigger problem.
Play. Thank you for raising that. My brain is bigger as a result of this. That makes a lot of sense. And for everyone who's trying to confuse themselves or not confuse themselves into what agents are basically just workflows. Just letting you all know, FYI. right? But this is the first time I felt complimented when you called me a weirdo. So thank you for that, Harris. And funnily enough, we had over 70% of you respond back. We got more of you joining. Sorry for those of you waiting. We did not realize we had a Zoom limit in place, so we got that sorted. But it's literally split 33%. Some of you know how to use automations, 33 don't use automations, and 33% actually are interested but not confident. So that's definitely a shocker. And look, if you're interested in learning more about automations, you definitely want to check out the work Harris has done. Eric has done, Nick has done, pretty much all of them. Matt has done, Christian's done, Wesley's done, Enzo's done, Alex has done. Every single person over here has a lot of content online about how you can set up automations and things for you to try it. And if you're feeling a little nervous, give it a shot. Smartly's got agencies, agents, and agent automations in place. You just need to speak to it, and it will get your workflow ready. It is unlimited and completely free right now, so you should be good to go. If you're scared of using Zapier, that will solve that problem out for you, like it will do. Sweet. Now we want to talk about something that is exciting, data. We all love data. So we got our round 2 set. We're going to be picking up on Mr. 6'3", and we're going to be picking up on the average American height, as I remember. So I'm going to be asking Matt and Christian 2 questions. And by the way, if you haven't asked your questions in the chat, please ask them, because right after this, we're going to take about 5 minutes to pick up 5 random lucky questions and have them answered by some of the best over here. Cool. So the first question that I've got is for you, Christian. You can go into your secret sauce. You don't need to go into secret sauce, because I know data is like one of those things where people don't like sharing. It's the equivalent of like drop shipping, where you have your own little product you want to talk about. But to the limits you can, to the best you can, right? The teams that you're working with, the work yourself, right? With RevGen Labs itself, how are you handling data sourcing and verification today? Is there something that we can pick up from yourself that maybe is not necessarily just shared on the open internet right now?
I don't think we have anything like amazingly crazy. I mean, obviously we've got some big hitters in here that, like, Eric drops crazy clay workflows, and Matt's brilliant at what he does. But realistically, you have to look at data really simply as the harder it is to find, the more gold you're going to find from it, right? So the kind of standard, the industry standard for probably the last 2 years was everyone would get their Zoom info or their Apollo scraper, Apollo plug, whatever. And simply put, that just doesn't cut it anymore, So I think that, we're always looking for, like, how can we scrape some data that's going to be very difficult or very niche? Because if we do that, we know we're going to be more successful. Those people are more likely to respond because they're not getting hit up all day, because their inbox is less full. I mean, it's a really simple waterfall. So I don't know that I've got anything earth-shattering here, but it all does start with data, right? Because if your data is not clean too, that becomes a snowball rolling down a hill. So you got to kind of find this balance of, like, finding this gold nugget data, but really enriching the heck out of it. So using a bunch of different data sources to enrich it or qualify it to make sure it's good data. Because if you start hitting a bunch of bad data, then you start blowing up your infra, everything just gets worse from there. Then all of a sudden you're realizing your deliverability sucks, and then you're frantically figuring it out. And for most of us, like, deliverability and some of these things aren't second nature, right? So I know that not everyone here is an agency. Some of you are individual contributors at your company. The last thing you want to do is put this, like, meticulous process into place, build this beautiful system, and then immediately go blow it up and have to spend 3 months frantically trying to figure it out and redo it again. That could be the more costly thing that you could do, is you blow everything up. So data is critical, triple enrich, right? Everyone's got their waterfalls in clay. Everyone's using a lot of the smart prospect now. That makes it really easy, just to be frank. And especially how you guys collect your data is because you've got millions of people sending emails, so you know what works and what isn't, which tends to make it really nice and high quality. So anyways, that's for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's very, very appreciated. And I think it's aptly positioned for the next part. Matt, for yourself, I'd like to understand from your perspective in terms of data quality, data assessment, even after using verification tools, there are chances that you do get bounces and so on and so forth. What should we make of that? I know this, we coined the term sender bounces or whatever it is, but how would you usually handle data quality? I'll just sort of describe the question a bit differently, right? You upload 10,000 leads. Those 10,000 leads, do you wait to go for something like, if no one replies within 100 leads, I am not going to go ahead and continue the campaign anymore. If you see a high bounce rate, you stop the campaign altogether. Do you see something like a Barracuda blocker, you tend to stop the campaign? What exactly is your signals to ensuring that data is good or bad, according to you?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I would say to unpack that a little bit further, there's an important distinction between infrastructure and leads. You can get a super high bounce rate, and that mean your leads could totally be fine, but you just totally burn your mailboxes. That's mostly like if you see your sender bounces inside of Smartlead spike, there's a solid chance that it could be because of your infra, it could be because of your copy. So sometimes I see after consulting a look at a bunch of different accounts, people have a tendency to like misattribute where the problem is. So for example, if you see a hard bounces spike, that is like 99% chance that it is actually a lead problem because you are sending mail to someone and the recipient is coming back saying it does not exist or the mailbox doesn't exist. So you have junk data. If your sender bounces are high, it could be the data, but more than likely it's like you put something really spammy in your email or your infrastructure is completely burned. So that's how I kind of think through it. If you are getting a high regular bounce rate, like you're getting all kinds of bounce messages that say mailbox doesn't exist, invalid mailbox got disabled, that means your data is junk and you just need to re-verify it. Otherwise, if you're getting sender bounce errors like mailbox rejected, even though it does exist, and you've thoroughly validated it, then chances are it's either an infrastructure problem or you're sending something spammy in your mail. And if you do that, usually you can fix that up. Now, in terms of like benchmarks, 100 mails to me is like a drop in the bucket. I usually like to send, 1,000, few thousand to start. And I also want to do it over an extended period of time. Some people like send a bunch of mail and then they'll immediately think that there's a problem because they're not seeing a 1% or 2% response rate. But a lot of times, like you could be sending people on off hours. You could be bursting, your mails across 2 hours and people just haven't responded right away. So I would say in terms of like health metrics, wait at least a couple days, send at least couple thousand emails before making any conclusions. And then, yeah, in terms of like knowing where the problem is, if your soft bounces are high or sender bounces as defined in Smartlead, it's probably a mailbox issue or a copy issue. And if it's a like hard bounce issue, it's definitely your leads. You just got to re-verify them.
Love it. Thank you for that. So since we got the epic questions, everyone answered them. We are very grateful for the answers that we've got from the 4 big legends. I'm sounding so fake right now, so I'm kind of trying to be less fake. We've got a bunch of questions in the chat. Those questions, we're going to get picking about 4 or 5 of them right now. And I will just point it to the 4 individuals who obviously just helped out and giving the answers now, or actually all 8 of you gave the answers to an extent. So I'll be picking 4 questions. We'll do that over the next 5 minutes just because we've got a bunch of people over here looking and we won't be able to pick all the questions. So try your luck, drop it in there. We'll see what we can do. Now, there was about 5 people asking the same question multiple times. Nick, how do you send 1 million LinkedIn DMs every month?
You just have a ton of clients. It's all through our clients at Cleverly. We have like over 800 clients at Cleverly. So it's just sending it through their accounts.
All right, fair enough. Everyone thought you had like a hack over there.
Nice. No, definitely not.
Nice. We love that. Okay, awesome. Now, I'm happy for whoever just wants to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and pick someone. What are you doing for dealing with the deliverability for Outlook at the moment? Anyone want to take a hot shot at this? I'm just going to pick someone then, otherwise. All right, cool. I will go ahead and pick Enzo.
Exactly the person I didn't want me to pick. I'm like, I hope it's not. I hope it doesn't pick me because I have no good answer to that. I think fair, like I have not good answer about Outlook. I haven't figured it out. I don't think there's anything specific. A lot of things we've been trying is making message shorter. Trying to focus it a bit more on the offer, trying to make it simple as human as possible. But like, to be honest, I don't want to say we've figured out Outlook in any shape or form. I don't know if any of my colleagues here figured out Outlook. If they did, please guys, come at the rescue here. But I don't think I don't think we figured out anything specific around Outlook. the thing we do is that we do split Outlook and Google campaigns side by side to just see like, is there a meaningful difference? What we do notice is that industries that tend to be more Outlook focused or tend to have more Outlook infrastructure in place, such as taxes, professional accountants, weirdly don't seem to have general issue landing compared to companies, industries that are just broad in general tend to have Outlook. Industries specifically that have Outlook focus type of infrastructure, when you target them exclusively, we don't see any type of changes when you do Outlook to Outlook. But other than that, to be honest, guys, I don't have a major
No,
answer to
that's
that.
completely fair. Don't worry. I think it's one of those mythical answers to questions that no one even I don't have most of the time. I just we try to just
Can
give
I-
the data that we have. But yes.
I think just to add a little context, because maybe a lot of people don't know this, but realistically, like deliverability to Outlook is really bad right now. It's like really bad. And so for most of us, and I've talked about this with these guys, and like, how are you guys handling this? With a lot of our clients, when possible, like again, that segmenting is really powerful, right? We focus on anything other than Outlook, generally speaking. And Outlook is like, okay, if we have to run it, we'll run it, but we know we're not going to get much for responses. And so I think that segmentation that you mentioned, Enzo, is actually critical. So making sure that you're sending like bucketing the Outlook and handling that how you want to handle it, but run your own tests, come to your own conclusions. And like you might, if your targets are only Outlook, you might have to find other channels to support that, like calling, other things as well. But it's a really tough one this year.
Fair play. Awesome. Thank you for that. We'll take one more question, just contentious of time. Also, everyone, this office hours, it's not an office hours, this pretty massive event is going to go on for maybe about 20 minutes more than the hour that we've got. So please keep yourself available for then. Like I said, whoever sticks around to the end, about 100 of you are going to be getting access to some really incredible, cool things that we're going to offer from Smartlead side. That has to do with either your private infrastructure, free data, mailboxes. Nope, I'm kidding. No mailboxes. The data product you get maybe unlimited minutes on the dialer or agents. We have a lot of stuff to offer for each of you. Now, with that going into it, I have two more questions, or actually one more question to pick up. And I would like to take this particular one. I think this is interesting. When you're building new workflows and you're not sure they'll work, how do you decide how much time to spend on testing these workflows before moving on? Do you have simple rules to follow to size the complexity of the design of what an agent does? Or are you just by default focused on trying to keep it as simple as possible? I'd love to perhaps get, I think, Harris, if you don't mind jumping into this one. You want to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go. Cool.
Put me on the spot. I'm gonna pull an Alex here. Ask me that and rephrase that for
In a
my
different way.
still waking up dad brain. I was awake for the midnight hour with my 2-year-old last night.
Cool. I think the question simply is, when do you know you've hit complexity and you probably want to dial back when you're creating a workflow or an agent?
Yeah, well, let me zoom out here. Okay, the number one failure mode in Outbound is failure to launch. Like that, like time and time again. And the reason why most people end up working with people like this, people like that are on hosting in this, and some other awesome folks. Like I saw Petra in the comments. Like there are some incredible experts in the space. The actual secret sauce here is that the people who get outbound results know how to ship. And a lot of internal teams, a lot of founders, they get caught up in doubts, they get caught up in questions, they get caught up in like, what if I hurt someone's feelings because they didn't want an email from me? Or what if the message isn't quite right? Or what if I get a couple bounces because, I didn't know that lead magic existed. And then, but if it did, I wouldn't have all these bounces. I mean, so I think a lot of people get lost in the sauce, and a lot of people hesitate and they wait and they fail to launch. And that is the number one failure mode in Outbound. I mean, one of the comments in the chat that Eric threw in there was like, send more emails. It's like, yeah, that's kind of it. You just kind of got to do it. So, I mean, if you even think that, I mean, if you're not shipping regularly, shipping new things and failing, and if you're not annoying people, and if you don't have automations that are breaking, you're probably not moving fast enough. I mean, that's kind of my like, my main perspective, I guess, that I would say, because we work with a lot of agencies, and I've ran one myself, and run our own internal campaigns. And yeah, failure to launch is it. So you should be failing, You should be getting some people saying, I don't want this email. You should be getting automations that break, and then you have to fix it. If you're not moving fast enough, is my opinion.
Nice.
That goes for
Love
all
the
business too. That's not just outbound. That's all business.
Progress over perfection
move
for sure.
speed. All right.
Yeah.
We love that. We
Yeah,
absolutely
out for all pedal. We got 2026. I'll tell you this: the vibe in the chats and stuff like that, and talking to people are ready to go. So you should be one of them, because I think like I'm seeing people ship stuff that's just absolutely nuts right now. It's very exciting. And so if you're not in that mindset, if you're still like, okay, I'm thinking about 2026, like you're 2 weeks in. So that's my little pep talk.
I
Someone
get it.
pointed out the poster in the background of Harris's background.
Yes, man.
Hey, look, I enjoy fine dining like the rest of us.
I love it. All right, we've got poll number 3 coming out, and then we've got some exciting questions to go to our speakers. But for the rest of you over here, open question for each and every one of you, and I'd love to get your answers on this. How many of you believe or have seen private infrastructure work for your outbound? A, do you actively use it, understand it? B, you don't use it, but you understand it. C, you don't use it, don't understand it. D, used it, didn't work. So it's all to do with the private infrastructure, and we've got very mixed answers whenever we speak to individuals about the whole concept behind of it. But I'd love to take 2 individuals' thoughts on this over here. I'd love to take on Alex. I do not know if you've actually had a chance to play with private infrastructure in general, whether it's whichever platform in the world. Have you ever had a chance to use private infrastructure? Have you seen any results out of it? Has it nice flex on the watch? Has it worked to your benefit or not?
I hate it, to be honest with you. So we used it earlier on when we first started running Outbound at Understory. We've used it a few more times in between, but I had such a bad experience the first time with a company that I won't name. And it was terrible. We ended up landing in spam within the first, I don't know, week, and there was no getting out of it. And the only way to do it was buy more infrastructure, like it always is. Eric's talked about this for years. But we bought more infrastructure, and we kept running into the exact same issue over and over again. The support was terrible, and I was scarred by it. We've tried it a few more times since, never had a great experience. What I like to do now is just diversify infrastructure across Gmail and Outlook. It always works. And it's consistent. We see longevity work way, way longer than any private infrastructure we've ever used. I don't know if that was what you wanted to hear or not, but that's the truth for what we do as business.
Good enough for an answer.
So private infrastructure for us is a no-go. I don't like it. I understand it completely. I just don't like it.
Fair enough. It's completely fair and fine. Matt, how about yourself?
Yeah, I've tested a handful of different platforms at this point. And also and also to be clear, there's a lot of different ways you can be in private infrastructure. There's like private email servers, like SMTP servers. There's private, OAuth stuff. There's private IPs. There's all kinds of different private this and private that. I haven't, similar to what Alex said, I haven't found, for me, it hasn't been that it's been bad. It's just I haven't found a difference. So again, with all those 3 buckets, like with SMTP servers specifically, haven't seen a whole ton of difference between SMTP and or Google. Depends on the providers and all the stuff that you're using. In terms of the OAuth stuff, to be totally candid, I haven't tested a ton of difference there. And then on the IP side, my understanding of the backend, to be clear, I'm not extremely technical, is whenever you get an email and you look at the headers, you can see what server it's connected to, and people have speculated that there may or may not be a difference between the IPs. I've run split tests at this point, and so far I have found no major difference. Now, obviously, I'm open. I see it all the time on socials where people are like, I've done this thing or that thing. I see these crazy results, but every time I've personally tested it internally, I haven't found any noteworthy difference. So I don't think necessarily it's like bad or good. It's just that when I have tested it, I've not found any specific difference.
Fair enough. And it looks like the poll answers are a bit interesting as well. We got a bunch of people who use it. Seems like they understand it and get it. We got 40% who don't use it nor understand it. Okay, so
I think
I'll take it. Yes,
yes.
yes.
I think a lot of this too. I think everybody's always chasing the shiny object. Like, I mean, in Christian's chat, there's a billion ideas that get thrown around every single day. I read them all. How many of them do I actually do? Probably less than 1%. If something's working really well, you shouldn't be switching it up, to be honest with you. And I think there's a lot of shiny object syndrome in this ecosystem as a whole. And if you have something that's working really well and you're consistently getting 4 to 7% reply rates on a campaign, why are you switching? You know?
I think to your point, I think there's a whole bunch of things that sell the sizzle, not the steak. So kind of looping back to your like, how much work is too much work? You should try and replicate things that are already working and then streamline those. But when you're testing things like the new things, like a lot of triggers 2 years ago were like, oh my gosh, that trigger is going to change the game. And you would go run it and like it would just fail miserably, right? Like, so again, to kind of tie back to Alex's point, you test everything lightly, but yeah, anyways, just a point to be aware of.
Nope, very fair. Alex's point, test everything, but age-old mission in everything that you do. If it's working, don't break it. Don't listen to someone who's come into the industry trying to say, yep, we need to do something new. Innovate. No one's saying no, but do not, if something's working, let it keep working. Try something on the separate side if you want, but don't let the main flow die. Private infrastructure for those are coming in 2 formats. Just to not confuse everyone, there's private infrastructure, which is to do with like privatized SMTP providers that exist. What we're referring to over here is basically the purchase and usage of private servers, certain platforms, including ourselves, offer, right? For customers who want to have their IPs locked in, not shared with anyone else in a situation they think that there's fingerprinting that happens on the IP side. So just as an FYI, that's one thing. Now, I want to jump into round 3 of round 4, right before we go into the final set of questions. And again, remember everyone, there's about 500-600 of you over here. Stick around and we will be giving you some awesome freebies. And for those who know or do not know, Smartlead offers private infrastructure as well. If you want to give it a crack, you can reach out to us. And I think a good bunch of you are going to get that for free at the end of this anyway. Sweet. So the next set of questions we've got over here is to do with infrastructure and deliverability. And I've picked 2 great individuals, which is Dick Abraham and Enzo right in the middle. So I'm going to start off with the first question. Enzo, you work with a bunch of clients, bunch of customers. You see some interesting setups when you acquire them to come over to your side, right? But what's that one thing that you've seen everyone do, right? And you still see it happen and you know it's a big mistake. Beyond just, let's just say, the company using their private domain, right? Or unless that's still actually a problem. Is there anything else you see people doing that they really should not be doing, given the number of customers you have? We know we're very grateful to serve you on Smartly. We know you do a bunch of cool things. Your team definitely holds me on my toes. So I'd love to understand from that perspective.
I'm going to pull another Alex here. We're talking to specifically, they've been doing outbound. I'm going to use the Alex. They've been doing outbound and they want to start working with us to scale the outbound. And you want to know what they've been doing on the infra side, on their side.
Well, just like a common issue, common bug, common mistake you've seen. Like you've acquired 10 clients, you've seen 7 of the 10 clients have their DKIM screwed up. They're hosting it on Namecheap, or they're sending Namecheap mail server messages. What's that setup?
That's an interesting question. I think it's gonna be stupid, but I think if you think about, let's go about the fundamental, what's makes code outbound works, it doesn't work, because it definitely impacts infrastructure. People either have a really bad offer or they don't reach out to enough people, and that creates an infrastructure to go bad relatively fast or not. And what I'll tell you is most people that have been doing outbound and moving towards working with us, I think most people are sending really, really bad message. And they're not being honest with themselves, they're just saying really, really bad message. And how much that has impact on the infrastructure. I think most people tend to blame infrastructure for a lot of things because they're not doing the fundamental right. And when I said the fundamentals, that do you have a good offer? Is your message really short, straight to the point? Does it sound like a human? And that specific things, to my opinion, is what I'm focusing way more to solve my infrastructure problem than actually figuring out, hey, is my warm-ups is really, really well defined and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you need the DKIM set up properly. You need all your configuration on the dots. But I think, to me, most of the issue that I'm seeing that lead to deliverability being bad is just the fundamentals being skipped over and again. And I think people tend to over-dramatize deliverability, trying to figure out what's going on when they just have to do the fundamentals right. High quality output, really low sending across, bigger infrastructure that actually more than most would think they should have. I think people should most of the time have a way bigger infrastructure they need to compensate, being able to send consistently across, scale, decline, or whatever. But to be honest, that would be my first answer to the mistake people are doing when they're trying to do outbound on the side and figure out what's wrong about deliverability. To me, is the fundamental not being done properly.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. No, completely fair. Nick, question to you. I guess in a similar format, right? I want to talk about warm-ups. Let's go into it. What are your thoughts on warm-ups? Do you believe in them? Are they hoax? Are they tinfoil hat? Where exactly do you stand with warm-ups right now? What does it look like in your end?
Yeah, I think like people over obsess on warm up, and I used to make that mistake too. I actually built a warm up company like way in my early days, and it was like the whole thing was like, hey, it's private warm up. We have like our own private seeds, and they are the only ones engaging with it. It's not public and all that. And honestly, like I should have probably did a little bit more research prior to starting that because it made no difference. And I think a lot of people try to highlight like private warm up and everything like that, but Smartlead's warm up is more than good. And there's no such thing as like, oh, this warm up pool is better, and because of that, my deliverability is going to get better. There's just like so many nuances there. And I would also say like, coming from a guy that built a private warm up network, they're actually, I would say, a little bit more risky because the seeds can burn out. And like for us, for example, we had a day where all of our seeds got shut down in the singular day. And so every one of our customers were just emailing into our bounce seeds. And it was kind of like a total mess. And so I think the larger, bigger, more public warm-up pools like Smartlead has is great. We have about 130,000 inboxes in our Smartlead account right now, and we only use the Smartlead warm-up. We're not putting that anywhere else. And I think like that's more than enough, and it's good. So yeah, I wouldn't really buy the hype of private warm-up helping you guys have better deliverability or anything.
Interesting. Thank you for that. That is so. Anyone, if you, there's a good chance on just a probability perspective. We've got over 5 million mailboxes on our platform, but there's a good chance you probably interacted with Nick at some point in time. Sweet. All right. Before we go into the next set of questions, we've got the last and final exciting poll, and then we've got the final set of questions around automations and workflows, which I'd love to pick on some of your brains. Sweet. Now, the poll that's going to be opening up over here is a very interesting one, and I don't know how many of you actually do it, but the poll should be ready. It should show up on your screen. I don't know where it is. Hold on. It should show up. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Give me a second. We're not seeing it. Awkward. All right, we'll wait for the poll to stop. While the poll starts up, the question that I will be asking all of you is how many of you, the people on the screen, how many of you are actually using dialing as part of your lead generation experience? Are you guys actively using it? Are you testing? Are you considering it? Or it's just part of emails? Maybe we'll just start with like a hands up over here. How many of you are actually using that? Oh, wow, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Lovely, cool. So we do see a lot of you actually running that. I think the team might be struggling a bit to get that last poll going. However, while the poll is going to get ready from the team side, I do want to get the question onto the two people who, like some of you have raised your hand. Alex, let's start with yourself. Where exactly does the dialing experience come in your entire legion? Is it at the start? Is it to bump a lead up? Are you power dialing? Are you using it as a multi-channel experience? Where exactly does it work for you?
It's multi-channel. So for us, once a lead comes through via email or via LinkedIn, we can send that directly back into Clay, enrich the phone numbers. By the way, we don't do that beforehand because it's expensive. Phone numbers can be expensive unless you're using Vaibhav and doing some magic on the back end. I don't know. But with us, when leads come in, we'll go back into Clay, enrich it, find the phone numbers, we'll waterfall that data, and then we'll send it directly into the CRM. And that contact already exists in the CRM thanks to OutboundSync and Harris, who are pumping that data automatically into HubSpot for our clients. So that's what happens. And then we set up workflows. We have a RevOps department internally as well at Understory. So for us, we set up workflows at HubSpot too that notify whoever owns that account that they got a lead. It'll show the lead correspondence. It'll show the email. It'll show the response, everything. And then it'll send them a notification with the phone number and say time to call. And so we're not actually doing it ourselves, but a lot of our clients have SDRs that are jumping on the phones immediately, and they're doing that too.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. And I'm assuming very obviously so the results are incredibly strong.
Yeah, it works super well.
Okay, cool. And I want to take the next individual over here because I know I think Enzo uses dialing extremely well, and so does Matt. So we might actually extend this question a little further. Enzo, same question back to you. Are you power dialing? Is it a multi-channel experience, or where do you position that?
Yeah, it's all of them above. And we had 11, 12 full-time SDR that only do calling on our side. So I do have a strong opinion. That might be actually be different than Alex in some instance. If you think about our business, especially let's talk about cold email, that is, how all of us started here somewhere. If you think about cold email, the first issue you have to warm up. And sometimes you're onboarding client, takes 2-3 weeks before we launch. On the other hand, you're like, hey, you sign a contract, you pay the invoice. As the next day when you approve the sales script, we can start dialing. So that experience of reducing the onboarding experience and the speed to positive dopamine hit. Oh my God, I paid, and next day I get meeting book on my calendar. This is crazy. So we use that a lot as a way to accelerate onboarding when it comes to the client. So that's a big thing that we do. So we do also differently than what Alex mentioned. We do call calling as well, warm calling for sure. And we also do the appointment setting part of it. So that's how we approach it. Now, when it comes to multiple-channel, I think this is really powerful in the sense that my goal when I'm launching any type of campaign, the LinkedIn, emails, and phone, because usually when we're doing for clients, we do all three when they want to do the dialing side of things. I like to give this impression to prospect that we're trying to reach out to them precisely them. Let me give you an idea. Email one, I'm sending on a Monday. On Tuesday, we visit the prospect LinkedIn account. So they say, oh, this guy viewed the LinkedIn account. We send a connection request. Email two goes out on Wednesday. On Thursday, we call the lead. He doesn't pick up. Leave a voicemail with the name. On Friday, we send email three. It gave the prospect the idea. This is weird. This name sounds familiar. It was in my inbox. The same guy visited my LinkedIn profile, sent me a message. Oh, I'm listening to my voicemail. There's this guy assistant that said he's trying to get in touch with me to call back. It gives you the entire feeling to the prospect, a one-to-one experience. I'm trying to talk to you specifically. And that's why I feel is really, really powerful. And that's why we're trying to use it, not just to respond to it fast, which is obviously it's awesome. It's really, really good. And there's nothing more powerful than calling the leads when they respond to an outbound messages. But also the idea of targeting the leads where there's multi-channel and there's a consistency of a name that keep coming up over and over to get in contact with me. I realized that prospect have a hard time imagining that this is automated because this is too precise. It's crazy.
Fair enough.
It looks so human, and that's the model that we're trying to create when we create that motion in our portfolio. And to just bounce back on the speed to lead thing, you should think about, and I think most people don't underestimate how strong it is, but you guys getting leads all the time. And the why I created my SDR departments was because I was sending 200 leads a month to a client to churn. I'm like, how's that possible? And I realized that the muscle to generate interest and the muscle to book a meeting is two different motion. And I realized that when you need to get somebody to get the interest, responding to them via email people, they get distracted, the dog dies, something happened in the day, they're not behind the computer all the time. But anterior to the day, when they're showing interest and calling them right away, there's nothing more powerful to get the commitment to move to the next step. And that's how we're moving and creating this star motion on our SDR department.
Nice.
Sorry for the long end.
No, that's good. That's good. I want to actually pick on Eric because the next question will probably just have one person because we obviously had Eric drop off. Matt, maybe get your thoughts on the same thing as to how you're using dialing as well, because clearly people are passionate about this. I was not expecting this one little poll question to go on, but clearly people are excited about that. So yeah, Matt, quick notes about you because I know you're a big proponent, and we're going to be giving you the product amongst the first few to use it as well. So get your thoughts.
Yeah. I'll keep it quick, but yeah, what we found, it was actually funny. We had a pilot with a customer where they're like, hey, we just want more meetings. Like, what can we do? I suggested scaling up email. They're like, hey, why don't you guys try dialing? We gave it a go. and it just annihilates. Like the best use case we've seen is just calling warm leads. What I found, and maybe our numbers suck, but what I found is if you do a back and forth email conversation in aggregate across the 7 million emails and 10,000 or so positive replies we had last year, we booked about 20%. That's roughly what it was. Now, what we found is when we dial leads, if you dial warm leads and they pick up, of the people that pick up, you can book like a third of those to half of those. So let's say you dial 10 people, 15, 20% of those people pick up, you dial a third. It's like every 10 to 20 dials, you're getting another meeting. Now, if you have a customer or if you guys are running this internally, you're getting a ton of positive replies, it can substantially boost your, booking rates and a lot of other stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of dialing. I think it makes a ton of sense. Now, it's not a cure-all. If it makes something that works work better. So if you don't have something that's working, hiring an SDR, getting all that infrastructure set up might not be the best idea. I think email is a great place to start just for cost efficiency. But when it comes to like taking the meetings that you have and just converting them at a higher rate, dialing is phenomenal for that. And we found on warm leads, anywhere from 10 to 20 dials, call it 15, 20% of them pick up, and then a third of those people book in. And it's been a massive help.
Wow. Okay. Lovely. Thank you. So we've got another 450 of you over here. We've got a bunch of cool things to go through. We'll take one last question before we go into the last set of questions. I know we've got a bunch of questions that you all have raised. Please drop your questions. We've got another 10 minutes before we call this a day. So if you've got another meeting, just hold that for another 10 minutes. Now, before going to it, I want to take one quick hotshot question from Harris around automations and workflows. So look, you run OutboundSync, you clearly do a bunch of automations, you help a bunch of people do a bunch of automations, right? It's a give and take. But from your perspective, what do you think people screw up when they're starting automating their agency? Everyone talks about it. Everyone says they have to do it. But what's one thing they screw up? Like they are over automating the client inflow. What exactly is it that they're doing they shouldn't do?
Yeah, so I think that the most important thing, so we work with close to 100 agencies through our partner program. That's a huge part of our business. And so we get a chance to see people who really dominate. And I would say the unifying thing that everybody has in common there is they remember the North Star goal is getting leads. And so, if you're building an automation to save yourself time, that's great. And that's important. But the most important thing is, are the automations and workflows and, agentic workflows that we're building focused on delivering this result for our client? Because retention is what will allow you to scale your business. And then if you're an in-house team, similarly, if your outbound program that you're standing up is not able to generate leads, and you're not going to be able to continue to get like internal support for the program, people are going to pull the plug on it. So I would be really, really focused on building automation that's directly attributable to that goal of lead conversion. So, like Enzo was talking before about picking up the phone and how important that is for closing these things out. And, Alex has talked about how they use paid ads and to kind of do like wrap around, kind of like all-bound approach to get people in, so that would be the number one thing is I think people get, there's like internal operational automation that helps you scale, that helps you ship things faster. That's super important. But the most important thing is that it's driving the outcome or the result for the clients. And that would say what separates the agencies that are able to scale from not is they have better retention. And how do you retain clients or the internal GTM leaders who stick around and don't get fired in 6 months? It's because they're generating leads. So how do we do that? It's we have to generate revenue, and so I would start there. If this is kind of like my goal for 2026 is a more efficient outbound engine, I would start with what can we directly point to and say this is going to drive new leads for our team. Or if we don't know how, ask for help. Use AI or hit up one of the people here. Like, it's okay if you don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do things every day. So, it's not like you have to know everything, but you should be doing something about it.
Nice. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick moment to get a few questions in from the chat, and we're going to ask some of you all the questions. We've got the nice, lucky little 8 minutes to go over here, and then we'll go back.
Can I also call out one thing really quick?
Yes.
You're running an agency. For the love of God, please don't automate your customer support. um,
I would love to
we
call
trying to
you
look
out.
into that. We can have like an AI agent that answer maybe like frequently asked question kind of thing, but please, just for the sake of retentions and giving a shit about your customer, like talk to them, right? Trying to understand the use case, trying to understand the questions and all that kind of stuff. So talk to your customers, unless you're a product, right? And that's a different story. But if you're running an agency, please don't automate that.
I
I want
think
to jump into that. Yeah.
yeah, I would like the biggest thing that I've learned, I think from Nick, to be honest, and the few times I've been on a call with Wesley is that the biggest mistake people do when they automate anything is that they try to automate before doing it manually themselves.
Mm, mm.
I think that is the biggest mistake when you can do when you're trying to automate things because you never done it manually and trying to automate something that I've never done manually. And that's usually when it fails and doesn't get that, it hasn't never been used by the team, but the system doesn't work really well. Trying to automate things that you never done before is probably the worst thing you can do on any type of workflows.
Fair play. Couldn't fight that. That makes perfect sense. I actually wanted to pick a question, Wesley, that you were going into. I wanted to jump into how exactly you do prospecting for your customer base when you're trying to acquire clients yourself. So as an agency, right? So versus just talking about how to fulfill for your own customers, maybe to just take a moment to understand what exactly can new people, businesses, agencies, or even SDR teams that are trying to build their own top line and funnel, how are they actually meant to look into 2026 when they're trying to acquire new customers? Is it still first line, intro mail, case study, blah, blah, blah? Or that can be the right answer, by the way. Or is there something else that people are missing out?
Oh man. Actually, I thought about this a lot, like for the past few months, actually. So, if you guys don't mind, I would love to give you like a bit of a longer answer, a bit about like a sales psychology kind of things.
Yeah, sure.
So I think the first thing that I've noticed recently is if you're selling some sort of like services, you can. I want to talk a bit about like lead targeting. So if you're selling some sort of like services, you could go directly to the decision makers, like the CEO, the founders, and things like that, and offer your service. And I think one of the biggest, I guess, like intent triggers that we've been seeing is see whether or not they have that particular role in the company, right? So if you offer some sort of like bookkeeping, like see if they have any finance guy in the company. If they don't have that, I think that's a clear indication that they might need that service. If you're selling any kind of product like software or things like that, you should go for the role that is in charge of that, right? I think I have like a first-hand experience on this because people are starting to like sending me like cold email, cold LinkedIn DM, and they just start asking me like, "Hey, want to check out this tool? Want to use this tool or not?" And I was just like, "Man, like I got someone else in the team handling that." You know. And so I think that's one of the biggest lesson that I would love to kind of share. That's one of our finding like pretty recent. And that's about lead targeting. When it comes to, I guess, like the copy and the offer itself, I think one thing that I have been really deep diving into recently as well is positioning. Like, how do you position yourself, your product, or your service before you reach out to them? And I'll give you an example. This actually got me to buy one of the services. So I was reached out by like a PR agency, right? PR agency, they, just get you publications and things like that, right? So you can just do a bunch of cold email blasts to everyone and just like, hey, we do PR, we do publications, blah, blah. You want to buy it or not? Or you can maybe phrase it like, hey, like I think you as a founder might be a good candidate to be featured in maybe let's say like Forbes or like entrepreneur newspaper, whatever it might be, right? So you see by just kind of like switch the way you position when it comes to like your messaging, that makes like a huge difference. And we're trying to deploy that strategy to some of our customer, and we've been seeing like insane result for it. So yeah, I would say those are the two biggest things
Nice.
that the secret sauce that I want to share. Lead, like positioning and also just targeting in general.
Sales psychology. Oh, what was that? We got Eric.
I come in from mobile? Can I come in
Yes,
from
sure.
mobile?
Sure, Eric.
Okay.
In
I
theme, go for it.
loved what Alex Hormozi said about this one time, where he said, if you thought about your service and the perfect version of your service is, say you're a marketing agency, and then you talk to somebody and then they sign the contract, and then 1 minute later they get their first lead.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate version of the service. And whether you're running services or you're running product, whatever that like ultimate goal is, you want to try to have that happen as soon as possible for somebody. And if you can make that happen before they sign a contract with you, even better. Or if you do that where like Enzo was talking about, where like they sign the contract and then a day later, because he's cold calling, you're doing that, then amazing, great. The process that we're thinking through for 2026 of how we want to try to double the company is getting leads before we even talk to somebody. So then we can go to them and say, hey, I already generated leads for you. This is a new program we're trying. Can we keep this running for you? Do you want to talk about how it works? And we're just showing them exactly how it works. And so for anybody, no matter what service, product, whatever you're doing, think about what is that time to value? What is that value? And how can you give it to them as fast as possible after talking to them? And if not better, how can you give it to them before you even speak to them? And we do all of our thinking right now is how we double the business because of all of the automations we've built and all this other stuff. And so I'm very like sales minded right now. And this is all I think about day to day.
Nice. I love that. Absolutely love that. All right. Well, we're running on the clock, but we've got two more things to speak through. One thing I wanted to just pick up, and then the next thing we'll go into, which is exactly, I think if you guys haven't got the links over there yet, there's the links to get all the freebies. Put your information over there. You can grab access. Like I said, we're going to give that to 100 people. It's not a small number. You're going to either get unlimited dialing access for 1 month for the power dialer that we're launching at Smartlead. You're going to get access to Smart Agents, which is automations on our side. You get free data. I mean it. Verified data. Don't worry. We're not going to screw up your database and your structure. You get free data. And or if you really want, you can also get the private infrastructure from our side as well. All of this is live available and on Smartlead if you all want, trying to be the most valuable product for you. And of course, you no longer need to pay for data storage anymore. That is a gone myth in the past. But while we're on that, a question for you, Nick, since we've got a few people talking about LinkedIn. How do offers on LinkedIn differ from offers from Outbound? Is there anything in particular people need to focus on? And what was it saying? Particularly with personal branding, if I'm doing Outbound for a client who does not have an active personal brand on LinkedIn, how would I approach that?
Yeah, so I think it's a few things. So if you're doing in-mails, you can take the same principles you have for cold email and use it for the in-mail. So, keep it short, direct response copy, go in with the offer, everything of that sort. You do definitely want to have a profile that is a little bit more like optimized. So, it can't just be, I would say, generic, have no content, have no like assets on the actual profile in itself. But really like conversational, personalized connection requests do really well. So you have to be kind of more tailored, and now the limitations on the amount of connection requests you could do is so much lower than what it used to be. You have to be kind of a little bit more selective of it. So like one of the better things to do is like find someone that dropped like a lead magnet and then engaging with everyone that commented on that post. Obviously I wouldn't position it in the way where it's like, hey, I saw that you commented on V's post, thought I'd connect with you. Like, it would be, you need to keep it a little bit more generic. Like, hey, saw that you're engaging with cold email content, would love to connect. Like that will get a super high acceptance rate, especially if you go scrape engagers of a post that's related to cold email. So those are probably some of the best tips on LinkedIn that I have. Also, like when you're building out your list on SalesNav, simple filters you can apply is like your first degree, secondary connections, because there's some kind of relevance there. As well as like if they've posted in the last 90 days on on LinkedIn, there's filters for all that. That'll help you kind of drive up your connection request or connection acceptance rate. And yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. Any tools that you can recommend, unless you don't come off biasy?
Yeah, we use Salesflow at Cleverly, but there's tons of tools out there. I think they're all pretty much the same. Honestly, I think there's a huge market for it to get better because I think all the tools kind of miss out on key functions. But yeah, I think like a lot of agencies use HeyReach. Expandy's been like, the gold standard for like
A long
5
time.
years.
Mhm.
And then yeah, there's tons of tools. There's new ones popping up every day. And so yeah, like I would just use any of the more well-known ones just because like you probably have less chance of getting your profile taken down. I know Sales Robot was in here as well. Great platform as well. But yeah, those are
Fair
probably
play.
all the ones that I recommend.
Lovely. We'll be asking 2 more questions, and then we'll be letting all you beautiful people carry on with your day, and be very grateful for the time you joined us over here. So those 2 questions I want to pick up over here is, question number 1. How do you guys sell to enterprise and executive management in terms of outreach? Is it just LinkedIn? Is it emails? Is it calls? I'd love to open the floor. Who wants to take on that? Matt, Wesley, who wants to give it a
Yeah.
crack?
I'll jump in.
Sweet.
Listen, I think for the most part, the way that you talk, I don't think it's like a unicorn type of persona or industry or anything else. I think you talk to them the same way. I also think this is true with a lot of other things that people ask, are like, how do you do cold email for this vertical or this industry or this niche? Once you understand the principles of outbound, it's really the same all around. It's just get their attention with something quick, personalized, give them some sort of value, try and make it as no-brainer as possible. Obviously, going up market has different challenges with the spam filters they have and all kinds of other things, but there's only so much you can really control. So I would say there's no magic wand. Really, you just pitch them the same way you'd pitch anyone else, understanding that you just got to do the fundamentals. Reach out to them, give them a clear reason why you're reaching out to them specifically, tell them what you do, and offer them something that's as no-brainer as possible. So I would say that's pretty sure.
So it's no different to what it is otherwise. Okay, so we shouldn't just hype it up in our head as much as we want to. Cool, completely fair and play. Final question I want to take on over here, which is, anytime any of you see large swings in deliverability, maybe this is an open question for everyone over here. If you can all take maybe 30 seconds so that we're respectful of all of your times, right? Whenever you see large swings in deliverability, one day is really bad, one day is good, something's happened. What is the single first place you go to check out? Are you seeing, oh shit, did you go to Twitter and say, cool, everyone screwed up? Or did you go and see that there's some software setup of yours that's incorrect? What's the first place you go and see when you see a massive swing in deliverability? Is it your Gmail Outlook, your infrastructure, and so on and so forth? So maybe I'll start off with Nick, then we'll go to Wesley, Alex, Enzo, Harris, and Matt. So Nick, floor is yours.
Yeah, so I love what I love to do when I'm trying to analyze deliverability is I love to look at the client's average and see like the plus and minus difference. So like what we'll do is we'll take, and you can build all this with Cursor and stuff, and I'm sure Smartlead's going to have it natively inside of their analytics eventually. But you can literally like take a client and take all the domains that are assigned to that client and then find out what their average is, and then you can compare the individual domain that you think has a deliverability issue and see if there is a huge plus or minus compared to the average. And I think that's the best way to really identify deliverability issues and deliverability trends is like comparing it to the client's average. Because like everyone's offer is different, everyone's targeting is different. And so when you kind of keep that in mind, like everyone's reply rates should range pretty heavily. Like and so like there's no real true, I would say, constant that I find consistently. And so yeah, like you want to really compare it to the client average.
Cool, fair play. Wesley, on you.
Yeah, I think Nick just literally spilled the bean on what we do at the agency. Like we we literally, for every client comes in, we set up like a Spotlight MCP. The easiest thing and the first thing you should do is literally just ask the AI, like, hey, out of these 30 domains that we got set up, 50 domains that we got set up for the customers, which one has been receiving the least reply rate? Like rank them, in the top 10 in particular order, right? Like that's literally the easiest way to spot like which domain is getting burned, right? Yeah, I don't have much adding to it. I guess one more thing is, I think we had a bit of a conversation about SMTP a little bit earlier. And I would say, yeah, I'm not a super, super huge fan of SMTP either, but I would say they are very, very cheap. Right. So it's not a horrible idea to just have a couple just on warm up. So in the event that, let's say you run some sort of like deliverability audit with MCP server and you do have to replace the infrastructure within like 1 or 2 weeks and you want to keep the pipeline going, this is where you can look into your like, oh shit, inbox, right? The SMTP server that you have set aside for yourself. So I think that's like one of the strategy that we use at the agency. Yeah.
Fair play. Alex, anything to add to that? If you have any thoughts, I don't want to sort of go 9 by in and every answer has been given because I have a bunch of other questions for you.
We use MCPs. We use MCPs similar to Wesley, so you can just ping Claude and say, hey, tell me which inboxes are delivering and which ones aren't, the reply rates by domain, all of that. You can also go into Smartlead and you can look at the domain level to see which ones are performing and how they're performing. So I think that's another.
Do you have certain parameters at which you decide a domain is burned or mailbox is burned?
If you have less than a 1% reply rate after 1,000 emails,
Okay.
that's a good indicator that you should be looking into
But
it.
do you
I mean,
only
for
look
us,
at the
it also,
deliverability, or do you look at the copies? How do you decide that's the issue?
well, look, if you're sending from 30 different domains at a time or 100 different domains at a
Sure.
time, and one of them has sub 1% and the rest of them are 4 to 7,
Sure.
then
Okay.
there's a good indicator that one domain has an issue.
Fair play. Makes sense. Fair play. Thank you for that. Appreciate it heaps. Cool. I have a similar question to you, Enzo. I want to run into that. But in terms of things like ASP matching or using single tenant Outlook mailboxes, do you experiment much into that? Do you see them work? Do you see them not work? What are your quick thoughts?
Most of my, and I don't know if I can do name dropping here, but I assume, yeah, Nick did talk, so I can also. Yeah, most of our, for example, Outlook and infrastructure we're using mainly Appetite. I think they're probably one of the best in the game. When it comes to Outlook Infra right now, that's the one that we like using. Mostly just it's really fast and really reliable overall. But in terms of and I lost your question right here. Sorry, can you repeat your
So
question?
the question was basically around, do you do anything specific in terms of your outbound? Like, what are your specific outbound infrastructure setups that you think people should focus on and look at? Like you suggested Hypertide. Do you think single tenant setups, ESP matching, all of those things matter, or nah?
Yeah, ESP matching matter to a degree. At least the more complex the offer in the industry and the competitive, I feel the more ESP matching tend to be a big one. But it's something that I said earlier. I don't think somebody does anything like that. The way we set up our infrastructure for the client is split in 3 all the time, which means, for example, I'm just saying the number 300 inboxes for a client. I'm gonna all time have 100 emails, 100 inboxes sending, 100 the warming, and 100 in the backup. And pretty much what we do is we spin those entire batch of inboxes, depending on obviously the industry we're going after, but between AV 15 to 21 days each to always have really kind of fresh inboxes. And whenever we're seeing a drastic drop of reply rates or bounce rate getting crazy out of nowhere, we already have a backup to be able to replace and never lose the volume and consistency for clients. I can tell you, I cannot tell you enough how many times that saved us to be able to do that really fast. But I'm not sure it's a lot of people doing. I know Nick's doing it. I know Eric's doing it as well. But I think something people should always think about is can I always have a backup infrastructure for everything? If something goes down, you don't want to be able to provide for a client. And I think those backups, and it's kind of much almost 2 backups that we have, is always something that is so critical and that allow you to if this is an infrastructure issue, take time to repair it, to fix it, buy new domains, new inboxes, and whatnot.
Okay, fair enough.
Best practices more than.
By the way, something you just said, I don't think you can repair it. I think the key is always just swapping it out with new infrastructure.
I agree. When I say repair, it is buying new domains, buying new inbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Repair what's happening in their deliverability overall. Yes, I agree. I don't think you can fix domains. You can just buy new ones.
You can if it's a 20-year-old domain, but and it's a 20-year-old domain, there is a remediation plan. Yeah, but if you're using outbound domains, just swap them out, just buy new ones. Eric's been telling everybody that for years.
Yeah, people get too emotional about mailboxes. Just treat them as vehicles. You need to just get your way through, and that's what matters, right? Cool. Last 2 notes. I want to pick on just Matt and Harris. Matt, on the note of deliverability, right? I mean, I know you're doing something interesting right now as well. So maybe an insight that you can share in terms of what do you think? Maybe you want to come and just bust the myth saying, yeah, you can use any vendor in the market. They're all the same. And none of this matters. Copy is all that matters. The domain is what that matters. What's something that you've picked up? Because I know you're spending a bunch of time trying to figure out what actually works in terms of infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so I'm running a test right now. And from what I can tell, and we've done a ton of different providers and a ton of different things, it is mostly all the same. Not that it's all the same. Some vendors are definitely better or worse. Some people do some weird stuff on the back end. But for the most part, the vendors are pretty similar. I've run a test where it's the Microsoft setup where you do a bunch of mailboxes per domain. I've run the Google setup where you do 1 or 2 mailboxes per domain. You can try all kinds of different permutations. This is after you do enough testing, and this comes back to the point we were talking about private infrastructure and this and that, getting super in the weeds. When you run a bunch of these tests, I've yet to find, like, everyone keeps looking for this one thing that you plug this magic code in and everything works better. It's like your emails are probably delivering pretty good if you follow the best practices. And if they aren't, then everyone else is following the same issues. And ultimately, what I found is there's only so much you can do on deliverability. Usually there's something that doesn't give super deliverability. There's stuff that makes it like terrible or way below baseline. But if you're at that baseline, then it's really just copy, offer, and everything else. So to kind of echo everyone else's points, like we test Google, we test Microsoft, we test SMTP. There's pros and cons to all of them. I would say for the most part, like if you're trying to bank on some weird deliverability hack to win everything, it's not the case. Just make sure you're doing the fundamentals, and then everything else is, you know, kind of outside your control. And then you just, you know, try and optimize your offer targeting and everything else. So
Lovely answer. Harris, question to you. In terms of any automations people need to set up when they're trying to make sure the deliverability is set up correctly in terms of placement tests, whether it's to do with domain swapping, whether it's to do anything around Outbound, what exactly do you see most people, or what do you suggest, right? Because you're working with a bunch of agencies, you're trying to help a lot of data flow go through in and out of OutboundSync. What's something that you tend to recommend?
Yeah. So first thing, you've heard mention of a few different vendors. So I would encourage people to think about working with vendors if you aren't already, because manually registering these domains takes a lot of time. And so there are definitely mailbox providers that can make that easier for you. Again, kind of like the earlier point of like ship fast, get moving. But I will say this, some of these vendors have very odd processes. Like they're requesting like full admin access to potentially like very important accounts like that may have the DNS records for your main domain for maybe other things that you're running in your business. So one of the benefits of working with an agency is they have a firewall where you don't have to worry about that. If you're going to work with one of these vendors directly, I would just really encourage you to be very mindful about what you give them access to. Maybe creating like a dedicated account with the domain registrar that's just for the domains, that has a dedicated credit card that's just on that account. So if there's any sort of issue, any sort of login or access issue, that you can kind of isolate that. Because I've seen people get a little a little sloppy, I guess I would say. And you know, you just DNS stuff is Eric's asking who hurt you. You know, honestly, like the internet shouldn't even be here, but here we are. Whoever, Tim Berners-Lee is the one who hurt me. So I would say, yeah, like allow an agency who has expertise in terms of building this stuff out. Or if you're going to do it yourself, just be mindful of what you're hooking up and what you're giving access to and payment records and things like that. Like I've seen people putting things in Google Sheets, and I just, you know, I would be careful out there.
Make sure you're just making things clean. Well, everyone, for the 300 of you that are here, thank you so much for being here. Again, Matt, Nick, Wesley, Alex, Enzo, Harris, thank you for taking your time out of your day. Of course, Christian, as well as Eric's ghost that is here right now. Thank you, everyone, for the session. Everyone who's joined over here, the 300 of you that are still left, thank you. We've got your responses. Feel free to continue checking out everything that we're doing at Smartlead and what everyone over here doing. They have dropped their socials. We will follow through with another email with everyone's social media, as well as their company profiles. If you all want to reach out to them, work with them, I believe some of you do want to work with them, feel free to reach out to them and see whether you qualify in the services that they have to offer. With that being said, it's January 16th. We've got a bunch of exciting things coming out with Smartlead. Feel free to check out your accounts with everything that's coming through, from unlimited leads, agents, prospects, dialer, data, and so much more that you will hopefully enjoy, continue to grow, and succeed. This is not the end. I think we had a peak of about 700 people in this event. We're going to be hosting another one very soon. We appreciate all the love you've given with every single person over here coming on and spending an hour and a half with us. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy your Friday or Thursday, wherever you're in the world. Chat to you all soon.